Hey guys, well, the men's AFL Grand Final is over, so the men's season is officially done, and therefore it's only AFLW from here until the year's end. So without further ado, let's dive into how last week's rounds went. So, first of all, Hawthorn versus Geelong. I had Hawthorn winning by 3 and they won by 7. Yeah, pretty expected. Hawthorn just seems to always just win these games very narrowly. I had Melbourne winning by 34 and they ended up just destroying the Suns by 87. The Suns didn't kick a goal. It was a slaughter. I'm kind of glad I left that game early. And then, big surprise, Essendon almost bet North Melbourne. The North Melbourne no one did end up winning by 30, but darn, that game was a close one for them. All right, and then I had Freo winning by 5, but Carlton won by 9. To be honest, that game really could have gone anyway, and the rain didn't make it much better. I had Collingwood winning by 10, and the Dogs won by 57. They just smoked the Pies. That was an insane game. And then, obviously, we have to get to the Sunday games, and we'll skip that one. We had Adelaide. I had them winning by 32, and they only won by 2. Like, it was a real tight game with Sydney. Like, Sydney really tried hard to win that one. Fortunately, they came up short. Then we had Brisbane won by 55 and then by 34. Richmond was in it for into the third quarter, but then, obviously Brisbane just ran them out. And then finally, West Coast, I had them winning by 8 and actually won by 42. I think I underestimated. I don't know why I thought GWS was going to give West Coast a challenge. I think I was too reactive to one the week before. But regardless, West Coast looking definitely very strong. All right, let's get into the round 8. And once again, Hawthorn is on the Thursday night game. Yeah, that's right, we have a Thursday night game. I think it's the last Thursday night game, though, for the women's season. Regardless, Kinetic Stadium, 7:15. I think last time these two teams met, Hawthorn won by, I think, something like 10 or something. And the odds, once again, have Hawthorn ahead. I know Hawthorn, I think, had 3 injuries from the Geelong game, so they're going to make some things, but they've had injuries all year and it hasn't really seemed to affect them that much. And Freo, at the same time, been very hit and miss team. They had a few amazing games and then a few terrible games. So unless if they were more predictable, maybe I could tip them. But regardless, I think I'm just going to have Hawthorn doing their classic, kicking hardly anything and still winning by a tiny margin. Let's say 5. All right, Friday night was just the one this time. Melbourne versus Essendon at Icon Park. It's interesting. Melbourne's doing a home game at Icon Park. Odds are for Melbourne to win this game, but I think last year, that's right, last year was the game Essendon just smoked Melbourne. It left them with such a bad percentage they weren't able to make finals. So obviously looking at the team specifically, Essendon had that real surprise game against North where they were close to beating them at some points. But vice versa, the D's still look like the stronger team. Obviously they're smoking of the Suns. Can we guarantee that Essendon can bring out 2 performances like that? Plus, is there going to be a wind? It's Icon Park. I don't think it's going to be quite as windy as Essendon's home ground. So it's for that reason I think Melbourne's going to win by, let's say, 22. All right, GWS versus St Kilda at Henson Park at 1:05 on the Saturday. Yes, we have Saturday games returning. Last time I think St Kilda won. I don't remember this game last year, but once again the odds say St Kilda's going to win, and I think I have to give St Kilda credit than I did last time. I think they are a better team. I know they dropped a few games early on in the year, but they've definitely had some solid play, and vice versa. GWS, they got smoked by West Coast. And it's for this reason I think St Kilda's probably going to win. Maybe not convincingly, let's say 15. All right, we finally have our first Tasmania game. I'm surprised that North hasn't played a Tasmania game until now, but regardless, we're in Launceston at UTAS. 3:05 on the Saturday. Last time these teams, North Melbourne smashed Sydney by 60, and the odds are, once again, for North Melbourne. I know they had their scare against Essendon last week, North Melbourne, and obviously Sydney came close beating Adelaide, but North Melbourne, they're going to keep winning, and I think they're going to win it by a lot. I'm going to say by 40. All right, next up we have Gold Coast versus Brisbane, the Q Clash at People's First Stadium, 5:05 on the Saturday. Brisbane obviously won this game last year because I think Gold Coast didn't win any games last year, and once again the odds are for Brisbane. I think Gold Coast will bounce a little bit back from their performance against Melbourne, but not enough to get them a win. I think Brisbane's going to easily, win by 50. I think it's going to be a big smashing. All right, finally on the Saturday night, 7:15, Alberton Oval, my Port Adelaide take on the Western Bulldogs. And What happened to our season? How do we only have 2 wins, and it's round 8? Um, yeah, just I'm very depressed right now. Like, I was like the season was teetering, and then it just completely blew off an edge last week. And for this reason, I don't really have any faith. Like the Bulldogs obviously had that big upset against the Pies, so they can easily win this game. You think we would bounce back and beat the Bulldogs, but I don't know. To be honest, you know what? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go reverse psychology here, and I'm going to tip the Bulldogs to win by 5, with the hopes that by tipping them to win by 5, I inadvertently trigger a Port win. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tip the Dogs to win because hopefully that means Port will win. Because this season's kind of gone to... I chose a really bad year to start doing this channel, didn't I? But regardless, let's go on to the next game. Richmond versus Adelaide at Icon Park. So Icon Park's going to have 2 games this week. Port. I can't complain too much about being a Port fan, because at least I'm not a Richmond fan, because is Richmond ever going to win a game this year? Like, I think they have, like, Collingwood and Gold Coast in the last 2 rounds, so they maybe get a win there, but man, it must suck to be a Tigers supporter right now. Obviously, Adelaide had that scare with Sydney, but Richmond's not going to give them that scare at all. I think Adelaide's going to win. Maybe not super big. I'll say win by 25. All right, we go to GMHBA for 3:05 on the Sunday for Geelong versus Carlton. Last time these 2 teams played, Carlton smashed. I don't think Geelong kicked a goal. It was like a really weird smashing. It was like Carlton's best game. So it's a bit odd that the odds are for Geelong to win when I think Carlton's actually stronger than they were last year. And I'm not entirely convinced how good Geelong is. I know, obviously, they had that run of 3 games, but they kind of had a weak fourth quarter against Hawthorn last week. And it's that reason I can easily see Carlton pulling off the upset here. So I'm going to go against flow here and tip Carlton by 4, even though I feel like my upset tips have not been the best this year. And then finally, West Coast versus Collingwood at Mineral Resources Park, 5:05 on the Sunday. West Coast, I think, won this matchup last year. And the odds are, once again, also on West Coast. Because, yeah, West Coast, they've been doing a real solid job this year. They haven't quite had that fade out that they had last year. I think they're definitely looking a lot stronger. I know the Pies have surprised a few teams, but I'm not convinced. I think West Coast has lost a game at home this year yet, so they're definitely turning Mineral Resources into a fortress. And for that reason, I think West Coast will win reasonably easy by 20. So to go through the scores again, I had Hawthorn winning by 5, Melbourne by 22, St Kilda by 15, North Melbourne by 40, Brisbane by 50, Dogs by 5. Adelaide by 25, Carlton by 4, and West Coast by 20. All right, and with that, I'll see you again next week to see how I go with those tips, especially with that Bulldogs one. And until then, let's go Power!